Never a man who is shy of giving his opinion. Before I do that, I must remind you, I'm going to get to our DAZN competition read. Do not forget to join that competition. But also remember to go to my YouTube page, The Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. It does exactly what it says on the tin, The Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. You can't not find it on YouTube. Hit subscribe so you never miss a thing. So if you miss any of the show, that's where you'll find me and people like Sam Armstrong giving his tuppence worth. Good morning once again.
Good morning.
Gosh, I mean, so much. I always have a list of stuff I want to talk to my guests in the studio about. We rarely get through more than half because we all, let's face it, we all love a yap and we all have 20 different opinions on everything. But can we start with Greta Thunberg this time? Yeah. Because she's so wrong about everything. So Greta Thunberg decides to get on this Freedom Flotilla. As far as I can tell, there was only one boat. It's a sailboat. All the videos, not a single one showing the actual sails up. The engine is complete. It's a diesel engine, by the way. It's a diesel engine. Yeah. They're apparently taking aid to Gaza, except they've apparently got about like 2 bags of flour. Yeah. I mean, really, I mean, genuinely, I think they had 100 kilograms. That's not even a supermarket trolley full. I've got more stuff in my kitchen cupboards than she has. Yeah. But it was all about making a show, and the very, very important thing was that they were going to, show the aid. They want to break the embargo that's stopping people getting into Gaza with aid. In the early hours this morning, UK time, they were stopped by Israel. This is the video that Greta Thunberg put out ahead of being detained. This is what she had to say.
My name is Greta Thunberg and I am from Sweden. If you see this video, we have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces or forces that support Israel. I urge all my friends, family and comrades to put pressure on the Swedish government to release me and the others as soon as possible.
Kidnapped. They were stopped. And there's a big dispute of whether or not Israel has the right to stop them. Of course they do. They're stopping people getting into Gaza. It's a war zone. Personally, I'd have let her and her mates get in. One of them is a big fan of Hamas anyway. He's been at Hamas leaders' funerals, for goodness sakes. Go in, wear your little shorts, have all your opinions, don't cover up. See how well that goes down with your Hamas comrades, little Greta. Is there anything she's not been wrong about, Sam?
Well, the first thing that she's wrong about is that she couldn't get the aid into Gaza, because actually what the Israelis have done is they've taken a Tesco Express shopping, and I think it frankly amounts to very much little more than that, and they're taking it in anyway. So they're not stopping aid. In fact, the Israelis are taking in aid every day into Gaza, which is more than could be said of the Egyptians, who we never hear a thing about, despite the fact that they share a land border with Gaza too. But
well, they want the genocide of the Palestinian people in Gaza too, obviously.
Well, mysteriously, the Egyptians, who obviously are another Islamic government, want absolutely nothing to do with the lunatics in Gaza. But we don't talk about them because we only focus on the Jews, because there was a memo went round, and only Jews matter when it comes to bad things. They don't matter, of course, when it comes to being raped, murdered or kidnapped.
No. Actually kidnapped, as opposed to pretend kidnapped like Greta.
But
also, by the way, if you kidnap Greta, you would give her back.
Indeed. Well, the pretense is offensive, though, Julie. It is offensive when you have actual, genuine kidnapped victims. The Israeli government are probably going to end up giving more aid over to Greta Thunberg. So the first thing they did was give her a sandwich when she arrived than they were ever going to deliver into Gaza. They're going to be taken, they're going to watch the video of what actually happened on October the 7th, the massacre of which the name must not be mentioned, and then she's going to be deported back. This entire thing at a time in which Israeli hostages are remain under capture, when the people of Gaza are suffering under the yoke of Hamas's brutal dictatorship, for her to come into that situation and, do you know what, say, no, it's not about them, it's about me, is offensive, it's puerile, it's sickening, it's disgusting. I don't want to see this woman on television anymore. I don't want to see her in a newspaper.
She's got the right to talk about stuff and to be wrong about stuff.
But she has got no expertise on the climate, let alone a conflict thousands of miles away from where she lives.
She missed way too much school.
She knows nothing. She's got nothing interesting to say. She's wrong about everything. This woman does not deserve the platform platform that she's got.
I know.
Enough of her,
she's one of those
please.
people. It's like Meghan. That I kind of feel ashamed and a bit dirty when I talk about them. But later in the show, we're going to be talking to Yvonne Ridley, my old. Again, we were friends on the Sunday Express, and she was taken captive, genuinely taken hostage by the Taliban back in 2001, ahead of the Afghanistan war. I have to say, I mean, some of her views on this are absolutely shocking. She was supposed to be on that so-called flotilla. We'll get her thoughts on it. I also want to talk about Dawn French. Now, much loved. I've never found them that funny, Dawn French and Jennifer Saunders. By all accounts, everything that's written is by Jennifer Saunders rather than Dawn French. She always seemed like a nice enough lovey. She's a lovey, so I assumed her views, as you can with all these loveys on these issues. So of course she takes whatever, What does Gary Lineker think? Oh, I'm with him. Yeah. Now, she put out a video on her social media talking about what's been going on in the Middle East. Clearly not very knowledgeable. And she's been forced to apologise. See if you can work out why she had to apologise for this video. Have a watch and a listen.
Complicated. No, but nuanced. But, bottom line is no. Yeah, but, they did a bad thing to us. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, but no. But we want that land, and we don't know, they've got history, and we've got, no.
It's not the most cogent, intelligent argument. I'd love to put her up against Natasha Halstorf, wouldn't you? Although maybe just, she would just shout BS, as Piers Morgan did to Natasha Halstorf in that video last week. They did a bad thing to us. She's referring to October the 7th, when 1,200 people were massacred and 250 people, including babies, were taken hostage. She's referring to a day when Hamas fighters gleefully filmed and put on social media raping and killing people. It is so flabbergasting. Now, she said, she didn't mean to mock it. She was trying to make a point. But again, they did a bad thing to us. As if the Israelis, the Jewish people, the people on that side of the debate are making a silly, trite argument, as opposed to our country was invaded. We had the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, and we need to take action to self-defense. This is the level of debate that we're getting in this country. And again, it's always celebrities. I have no issue with any. You're a footballer, a football pundit, you're a celebrity, you're an actor, a singer. You feel free to give your opinion on anything. I believe in freedom of speech. I want to know. When you're stupid and ill-informed, I'd really like to know about that. But seriously, read one book, read one neutral news article on any topic before you make an idiot of yourself on social media. She has apologised, but only if people were offended. And of course, it's mainly because she's going to lose a load of lucrative work for being such an idiot. Yeah,
and what a fake apology. I didn't mean to joke. I strayed into it. I did it accidentally. I accidentally joked about it. Look, this woman is qualified in nothing other than being a professional comedian.
Yep.
She is literally a professional in joking. She knew that she was making a joke. You knew that you were making a joke. You have earned a living out of making jokes for 30, 40 years. If you want to apologise, do you know what? Fair play. You didn't know very much. You were encouraged by all the celebrities. You made an idiotic comment.
Yeah.
Come out with an apology. But don't insult the intelligence of the British public by saying that you didn't mean to do it.
Yeah, that's
or you
the
did
thing.
it accidentally.
Yep.
That is a lie. Do not compound the offence that you have caused by lying to us all and expecting us to believe
it. Really is extraordinary, isn't it? It's so frustrating. We also talk about Kemi Badenoch wading in on the Burka issue. And there's a question I'm actually asking people today, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on all the things we're talking about. But 0344 499 1000 is a number to call to have your say on whether or not the UK should ban the Burka and other face coverings. Tell us why you think we should. Tell us why you think we shouldn't. Get in touch with us on X at TalkTV. You can text on 87222. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs one standard network rate message. This has come about because of Sarah Boucher, the new Reform MP, asking a question at PMQs last Wednesday, and it was sort of like rebuffed by Keir Starmer and also criticised as dumb by the then Reform chairman Zia Youssef. He then went on to resign as chairman. Big outcry over that. 48 hours later, he's back in the party in a new role, sort of a Doge-style role. So he's been to various interviews since, saying he was under a lot of pressure, he's very tired, worn out, he's been working for free, and basically he's been getting a lot of abuse online, and he just, he'd had enough, basically. Probably good news for Nigel Farage that he's back in. I think he's definitely turned around their fortunes in terms of, you can have the appeal that Nigel Farage has. You can say the things that a lot of people and voters are looking for, but you also need the organisation, the campaign, and the financing on the ground. And he has done that. Always been very impressed with him when I've interviewed him. But it's interesting, Kemi Badenoch, Tory leader, and you're a Conservative, that she has come out and she said, look, she thinks bosses should be able to ban burqas in the workplace. She will not speak to someone in her constituency surgery who comes in to talk to her who is wearing a burqa. She said you have to remove your face covering. This is what Jack Straw, former Home Secretary for Labour, he said this too. I would forget just the workplace. It's very simple to me. I would, like France and Belgium and numerous other countries in Europe, and indeed some 10 Muslim majority countries in Asia, in Africa, in the Middle East, have banned face coverings, all face coverings, on the basis that, it's not an Islamic requirement. It's culturally foreign to the cultures, whether it's in many of those countries, but particularly to European culture. If you live in this country, you need to show your face in social situations, unless it's very, very, very cold and you need to pull your scarf up when you're walking the street. You show your face. It's the same as someone walking around wearing a balaclava. Socially unacceptable and scary. That's how I feel about the burqa.
Yeah, and it's part of the social contract of trust that we all have with each other. That in this country, you go into a public space and you show your face. Why? Because if we can't see your face, we can't recognise you. Nobody can recognise people by their hands or their gait or the rest. Human beings recognise people by their face.
It's how you smile at people on the street.
Express basic emotions. And part of the reason, in my view, that Islamic men are so extremist Islamic men are so keen to hide women's faces is because they don't want them expressing themselves. Ta-da. They don't want them voicing an opinion, showing how they feel.
And in the countries where it is required, and then it is, and the protests we've seen in Iran, oh no, but it's Muslim women, don't interfere with women. We don't tell women what to wear, we're told. People are told what to wear all the time. There are rules about, public decency. There are rules about, pubs saying, you can't come in here if you're wearing a football strip. You can't come in here, no shirt, no service, or things like that. You have to dress smartly to go to a nightclub. I think people should dress more smartly in the workplace, largely. I really do. We have rules all the time about what people can wear and cannot wear. And it seems to me to be very, very clear. And again, you don't have to ban the burqa. You simply ban face coverings. I would go further. I would certainly go along with France. I would ban all religious insignia, including headscarves, in schools, because all of these religious rules, they always impact women and girls more than men. I particularly see, in London, burqa is not abnormal in London at all, whether it's foreigners or British, and it's very much an ideological statement. It's not a requirement in Islam. It's a hot day, and I'll see a man walking along, and he's got a T-shirt and shorts on, and his wife is, wearing the full black burqa. I've got to be honest. By the way, feel free to get in touch with me, Prevent, and de-radicalise me. Feel free. Feel free to arrest me for a race crime or a non-crime hate incident. I don't like seeing the burqa. Neither do most women who are forced to wear it around the world. Neither do most Muslim women, because that's why they choose not to wear it, that and the niqab. There's no reason at all for it to be allowed in this country. This idea that you have to be liberal. No. If you allow illiberalism, you're no longer a liberal country. Simple as that.
Yeah, and by the way, we shouldn't forget that migrants that came to this country, and this is largely a matter of migration or the descendants of migrants, they chose to move to a country that had an established culture, that had a way of dressing, that had a way of conducting themselves. And I am not prepared to live in a society in which migrant communities come into this country, continue to speak their own language, practice their own, at times, extreme cultural practices, wear entirely their own clothes, eat entirely their own food, because that tears at the fabric.
What do you wear? If you're in the Middle East, what would you wear? I mean, you're not going to be wearing his, local sort of Saudi dress or Dubai dress if you were...
Well, there is a material difference between having a small expatriate community that largely keep themselves to themselves, and you see that in a number of places.
So not integrating?
Well,
which is why I wouldn't go and do that, because I wouldn't see the point of it.
Well, here's what you don't see when Brits emigrate to places. They don't ask for society as a whole. They don't expect for that society to change to accommodate them.
Good point.
I do think there is also a matter...
Other than, can we have an English breakfast available at the local pub in Spain on a...
Well, but I also do think, and this is a controversial point, but it's a fair point, there is a question of scale as well.
Yeah.
When you have reached the point in which you are talking about millions upon millions upon millions of people all continuing to hold on to different alien, but by which I mean the original meaning of that word, alien cultures, it does tear at the shared social understanding. It undermines trust. These are real, legitimate feelings issues that people feel. I feel them, and I don't think we should be ashamed to ask people that come into this country to go along, at least in the main part, with our shared culture, which includes food, dress, language, values, etc.
And again, and it was fascinating how many of the same people who would say, you can't tell women what to wear, but would say to me, but you should cover your head if you're in an Islamic country. I thought we couldn't tell women what to wear. I mean, again, I remember, years back when my primary school, my daughter, they did a school trip to Regent's Park Mosque, North London, and they said the girls will have to cover their heads. And my daughter doesn't cover her head. And I spoke to the mosque. I spoke to Islamic scholars. There's no requirement for prepubescent girls to cover their heads to show modesty to a god they don't believe in, or indeed to a man. And I said, I'm happy for her not to come on the trip. But if you want to educate people about your religion and your places of worship, which I'm more than happy for her to go along to, you cannot require people to basically sign up to your value. Which she's coming as a non-Muslim to see your mosque, and she was able to go on the trip. And I made it really clear to the school: anyone puts a scarf on my kid will be facing legal action. I'm sorry, I felt really strongly about that. And I wouldn't have a single girl in school wearing any covering.
If Saudi Arabia wants to set a law that requires me to dress in a certain way when I go there, it's their choice. I won't be going.
No, exactly.
But that is their choice. We live in a democracy. We live in a culture. There is such a thing as English people, British culture.
Absolutely.
And the inhabitants of this island are permitted, in my view,
to say this is what we find acceptable or not. But of course, you're the you can see the reaction from Labour, and there's this criticism one of our callers made earlier. Look, Keir Starmer batted away this sort of like, no, of course he wouldn't be looking at a burqa ban. But again, other liberal countries, more liberal countries than us, you would argue, have done so. But the reality is, there's a large Muslim population in this country. There is a large Muslim population voting in Labour-run cities, and he is worried about the vote. But again, most Muslim women don't wear the burqa. If they wanted to, they would be free to do so, but choose not to. Doesn't that tell you something? Just finally, before we go to break, I want to talk about LA. Donald Trump is in trouble. I mean, the coverage of this by the media this morning has been, laughable. Troops were deployed to LA after Donald Trump demanded strong law and order. He basically watched, like other people did, 2 days of, let's face it, riots and violent protests on the streets of Los Angeles and elsewhere. These were people who were protesting against ICE, ICE being the Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers, turning up to actually just raid workplaces and take undocumented foreign migrants with no right to be in the country and to deport them. This is something which is, the law, and has been for many years in America, long before Donald Trump got into politics. There are 2.6 million illegal, undocumented migrants in California right now. There's violent protests. He sends in the National Guard. It's the first time in 6 years it's been done against the will of the governor of the state. This is California Governor Gavin Newsom, one of the worst people on the planet, a massive, awful, pretend faux liberal, hypocrite on lockdown and everything else. But if I lived in LA, I'd be going, thank God Donald Trump has sent the National Guard in.
If the radical left think this is their way to get back into power in America, they have got another thing coming. The American public, much like the British public, believe in immigration laws. They cannot understand why their politicians haven't been enforcing the laws that they seem so keen to enforce everywhere else for the last 40 years. Donald Trump has come into office on a mandate to enforce these laws. He's done exactly that. A bunch of gang members, extreme far-left factions have decided that they wish to conduct a riot that is putting the lives and livelihoods of the people of Los Angeles at risk. The governor of California may decide, because of his crazed politics, that he doesn't wish to enforce the law. The president is entirely entitled to do so himself. In fact, he's not just entitled, he took an oath to do so.